Yes.
What's magic?
Depends. There's many kinds of magic. But I'm not talking about magic for children, in like the clowns and the magician, but like real magic. So that's usually just a way to look at life, I guess. And I could be more specific, but...
yeah, if you like, try it.
For instance, magic is anything you use to pretend your reality is what it is. Let's call it that. So usually talking is magic, and if I convince you to do something, that's magic. Because I don't touch you and I don't do anything, I just talk to you, for instance. And stuff like that. And some people take it a bit more seriously than others. And I am one of those.
What is the necessary tools? You know, what is really needed? If you're talking like, this is what we do right now. So every talking is magic, or just a certain way on looking?
It depends on intent, I guess, and in your worldview. Some people have a need for it to be magic, need a lot of ritual and drama and costumes. And I tried that, but I can't really get into, it seems a bit, I get embarrassed, you know what I mean? So it doesn't really work for me, but when you do something with intent, I guess, and if it works out, it's magic, and when it doesn't work out, it's bad magic, you know what I mean? You try to make this huge mystical magic scheme, and it doesn't work out, so you think, well, I did something wrong. I don't know, that's I guess what I mean about the viewpoint, you know.
And what's the result of magical actions?
Well, one time I tried to do a magic, not trick, like a magic thing, using kind of a ritual, just to test it, to see if some guy would call me. And he did, like a day after, and that was the most useless thing I did, because he talked to me about like, hey, you want to go to yoga class? And I was like, no. But he called me, so I had to be specific. And I guess thinking very specifically and working towards a goal could be considered, in a way, magic, because that would mean that if I want somebody to call me, I need to be more specific than that, you know, not just call me about a yoga class I don't want to go to. I have to be like, you know, and you have to like focus your intent and your will. And I think everybody does that somehow. So I don't really think magic is, how do you call it? Supernatural? But I wish it was, but it could be. I'm not talking much sense, but I'll get into it.
But what is the opposite of magic?
Well, I think the opposite of magic would be like psychosis, because I had this writer friend back home in Israel, and she was 50 or something, and she said, people who just wake up in the morning, wash their face, go to work and come back, she says, they're crazy. That's some kind of psychosis. And I understand, that seems to me like the opposite of magic. Like waking up and just living the most superficial level of reality seems kind of crazy and boring. But more than boring, like crazy, because, you know, it makes this huge emptiness that you feel it with nothing. That seems like crazy stuff. Even if you're inventing the things, you know, if magic doesn't exist and God doesn't exist, at least you invent something to fill up that void. And if you don't, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean?
What's reality then?
Well, as you know, I'm a philosopher, so I can answer this question. Reality is, I don't know, Philip K. Dick said reality is the thing that no matter how much you wish it away, is persistent. It's like the only thing about reality that we consider truth is it doesn't go away, like dreams, or I don't know if that necessarily makes it realer, but it's more persistent, I'd say.
Do you notice reality?
I notice a part of reality, the part that's nice for me to notice.
Is this already considered in reality as the genre of fiction, or you face other realities than fiction?
Other realities than fiction? I don't know. What do you mean? I mean, everything
Well, you publish books of like comic books. You write comics and you and kind of horror stories or like what's mostly considered as non-reality or which is considered as fictional behavior or fictional retels. And so you are mostly working with the thing which is for other fiction.
Yeah.
Is it for you fiction as well, or you consider it as the only part of reality you are allowed to face for yourself?
I don't consider it reality as in the fact that it's what I experience when my eyes are open and I'm using my like normal problem-solving kind of part of my brain. But I do, in some kind of strange way, consider all fiction to be reality, but in a different kind of context.
Which context?
Like the world of the imaginary. For instance, I always think that stuff like Frankenstein, which I never read the book until like a year ago, but I feel like I was born, I knew about Frankenstein the moment I was born, because he exists, that archetype exists somewhere in, I don't know, meta space. And I believe he also existed before, Mary Shelley wrote about Frankenstein. So in a way, there is a reality to fiction, but it's not the reality we live in our day-to-day lives, even though many times we do, because when you call something Kafkaesque, for instance, you're analogizing a part of reality to something which is inferior to reality, like fiction, but you can only see it in reality because of the fiction. So yeah, I think fiction is a part of reality. It should be a bit more. I'd like it to, superheroes would be nice and ghosts would be nice. Haven't seen them yet, but I hope to.
Do you speak German?
No, I only speak German with other foreigners. I would never dare speak with a German.
Do you know what the German word ficken means?
Ficken? Yeah.
What does it mean?
It means to fuck, or fucking. Fucking.
How close is your understanding of the word fiction to the German word ficken?
Wow. Never thought about it. Ficken is also kind of a fiction because, you never really have sex with anybody but yourself, even if you have sex with other people, I guess. Yeah. But, so it's mostly fiction, and when it's not fiction, when it gets out of the fiction, it's either super boring and you want to go home, or it's love, right? Even though love is, I don't think fiction is such a bad thing. We think if something is not real, then it's lesser. So I'm kind of torn between saying that when in relationships you kind of invent the other person, that seems fine. When you share inventions, like the other person would tell you what he invented about you, and you try to live those inventions, that seems like a good relationship. But ficken, I don't know. One of the first words I learned in German.
Maybe it's ficken maybe ignores fiction sometimes from the German perspective. You wouldn't consider ficken as a fictional process, although what you just said is beautiful and wonderful because it needs inventions. But most people who understand ficken in German would never consider it as a creative gesture.
Because what kind of gesture is it?
It's a very it's one of the most ordinary words for having sex or being in love or whatever. What is it? Love parade.
Yeah, like gay pride stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess what you do in Tiergarten, beside when the wagons were coming with the techno music is on, and if you're bored by the, of course, repetitive 90s dance, trance, techno music, you go to the Tiergarten and fuck each other, which is this kind of ordinary that you call it Ficken in German.
Tiergarten, okay.
How much reality was ever fucking you up? Like, what's the part where you consider yourself, I'm fucked up by reality?
I think I grew up so in a very loving middle class family. I think reality used to be kind of a very foreign thing to me. I didn't have to deal head on with reality. Only at certain key points, for instance, things to do with the army, even though I wouldn't consider that reality. And, not having good money and jobs for a long time and not being able to express myself in the job I want, in my line of work, seemed to be kind of reality stepping in. And also, I had, and this sounds like I'm making it up, but it's true in a way, that because of the language, because of Hebrew and because of Israel and all it comes with it, I felt my imaginary world had a lot of trouble reconciling with the reality of where I come from. So that's part of why I left, in a way.
What's a moshav?
Moshav is a small community of living in Israel. You have like the kibbutz, which is a complete social system. Then you have moshav kibbutzi, which is agricultural village where you share. It's not communist like kibbutz, but you share the produce. And moshav is just like the normal capitalist version of farming, So it's a small farming community, but nobody farms there anymore.
How you get a diplomat out of this farming situation?
Well, my grandparents started out as kind of farmers, and my father was not a farmer. He was in the Israeli army for many years, later a diplomat for 2 years, and we came back to live in the moshav because there's a thing of the sons of the original settlers of this moshav could come and live there. So it's kind of like...
So you came back from Washington by deciding, okay, we're getting again an authentic life in Israel.
Something like that, yeah. I would, yeah.
Do you wish to live in Berlin, or you have to?
I wish to. Definitely wish to.
You came here voluntarily?
Oh yeah. What, do you know people who were raped into coming here?
Some people feel forced, like there's no other way to make the Knesset, the government of Israel, understand that they're doing wrong than by coming here.
Well,
to harm them, the Knesset, the most.
There is this thing of why specifically Berlin, and it does have to do a lot with, because it was the easiest, because I have German citizenship, and it does also have the biggest kind of taboo thing about it, which is like extra fun added, I guess, but I think I was never really an activist, so it'll be a lie to say that I went out of my political ideals, even though I don't share the political ideals of the Israeli government, naturally. They don't care if I'm there or not.
But they do.
I don't think they do. I haven't...
Well, the part of the government's called it people who find their new home in Berlin traitors to the idea of Zionism.
Sure, but I didn't go to the army, so I was a traitor to the idea of Zionism like a bit before. And, they always find something to make you feel like you're a traitor. And I used to take it really too hard, but it's been so repetitive, so I'm like, who gives a shit anymore?
Mm-hmm. So you didn't, hate wasn't the reason for getting out of Israel?
Hating of Israel. I was really mad. And there is some, I wouldn't say it hate, because there is a kind of love-hate relationship, but there's no only hate in my mind. But I do have this kind of anger, real anger, and kind of a need for revenge, even though I can't really make it. But for instance, I used to write in Hebrew and I don't anymore. And I was like, and when I was in Israel, I was really into how come everybody needs to write in English. Like when you're a musician, you have to sing in English and you gotta do stuff in English. That's kind of like colonialism. And I said, no, that's horrible, you know? And I kind of submitted to it so I can get my revenge somehow. But that's just my thing.
But if you're not sure about hate and love, or hate and what kind of feelings you have about it, if you should name people, like not personally name it, but is it soldiers you hate, or is it Netanyahu you hate, or?
I don't hate the soldiers because they're like me. They're not. Well, then I don't consider them as. No, I cannot consider them guilty because they follow orders, and they're 18. Okay, so even if many soldiers do many bad things, I do not consider them guilty. Like I wouldn't consider many radicals from the other side or violent crusaders from the other side as guilty. I do consider the people who pull the strings guilty. And Netanyahu, for instance, I consider him to be a black magician, and I am not kidding. He is a genius, because I don't know how that thing works, that he can stay in power so long, doing only bad, doing nothing. He hasn't made one decision. And he was 3 times the prime minister. Not one decision made. That's crazy. And I think he's a black magician, not to mention that he was a very important force for the killing of Yitzhak Rabin in the 90s, and he got what he wanted. I mean, they killed Rabin, and he became prime minister. And nobody talks about this, and so I kind of admire him for his evil genius.
The next question on this card is, where does the devil live? So it really.
Oh, I like this. I don't know. I always think I'll have quick answers for this because this is what I love most. But I don't know. I do believe I'm torn between if evil exists or not. Kind of nobody ever asked the question if good exists. We take it for granted that it doesn't, right? But evil, we say that must exist. But I do kind of believe, and when I say believe, I mean like, this is kind of a thought that I'm going with at the moment, that there are demons that possess you. And what I mean is not necessarily a real demon from hell, but a thought form that takes control over you. And I think if evil exists, so it's in governments. I just talked with a friend today. There are rumors that Ehud Barak was selling weapons. I don't know if this is true or not, but I hope it is true, because I need the evil of the governments to be represented in a very epic way. I want him to sell, women and weapons, Drugs is too small, I need something really big. So I think very mythologically about governments and the rulers. So if there is evil, it will definitely be there, I think.
He was born at the 3rd of February in 1984.
True.
And what was your first possession?
I don't know my first possession. I do remember my first gift, which is I had a operation, because I might be fucking this up a bit, but from what I understand, I had these 2 open kind of holes on both sides of my ears, like fish have, and they closed it. And when I went out of the operation, my grandfather gave me a very delicate, bit gay blue watch, and that's my first gift that I can remember, and I really liked it.
What was the thing you were ever possessed of? Like, Have you been possessed? When have you been possessed the first time?
Possessed?
Mm-hmm.
By what?
Demons?
Demons. I don't recall. I used to be in love when I was a kid. That was pretty possession-ish, but in a good way. So I'd call that.
In high school?
Yeah, mostly in high school.
And what is the reason why you've been dropped out of Tel Aviv University?
Well, it's my fault. I didn't complete my, I don't know how to say it, like the Israeli equivalent of SAT or baccalaureate. So I didn't have that, and so after high school, I had to do some night school, but I still didn't finish. And then I said, well, darn, I'll go to the university anyway. So I was put on probation. I had 1 year to finish my high school stuff, and I just didn't. So I went.
And so what do you, if you say that you did not do any army service, which every Israeli citizen is normally obliged to.
Yeah.
How that worked out?
Well, it was a strange experience. It started out with me getting to the final realization that this is something I don't want to do. Again, for selfish reasons, not for idealistic reasons. I have my politics, but to be honest, that was not what drove me. And then there was this long process of going to all these checkups before you get assigned. And at some point I had to decide, like, no, I'm not going. So I used to go to a therapist. School asked me to go to a therapist before that. And I kind of told him, and I wasn't being too sheepish about it. I don't want to go to the army because and I was a bit depressed at that time, so it was easy. And he wrote me like this letter saying that he doesn't know if Amir would be able to cope with the army life. And I played it till the end. I remember my last interview. So I came to the office and there was this group of people going like this because they didn't like me. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna kill myself. And they signed a paper and let me go. And I had it easy. I have friends who went to prison. There were talk about people who mutilated themselves in order to get out. But I do the easy way, if I can.
And you would say you have still an Israeli perspective, like did this kind of through the not army service you formulated like an enemy, the army, and but it's pretty much dependent on this opponent. So you would say this accepting this opponent as a part of you is still a part of you here in Berlin. So you have an Israeli perspective on Berlin, on America, on the artists you work with, on the comics you write.
I think I do, but mostly it comes out, I guess, as an identity crisis kind of thing. Because I am Israeli, and I do have this kind of built-in everybody hates me, and everybody hates the Jews thing, which I'm trying to, at least equalize or something. But it's there, and I have this hatred for everybody. I have this love-hate relationship with Europe and the Europeans, and obviously with the Arabs and the Palestinians, and with Israelis. I mean, so I do have this kind of love-hate relationship. Also, this kind of feeling that I cannot escape this Israeliness. That never mind. It's like my name is not, it's not Arabic enough and it's not Jewish, so I can't be like I'm a Jew from New York, and it's obviously not Protestant. So I'm stuck with this kind of Israeli thing, which I cannot lose. And that annoys me because it's kind of the last thing I want to be identified with. But when I feel, I'm talking so much. When I feel I don't want to be identified with it, I feel like this is my, it's like me trying to be, the wasp, because trying to be, better, like the Europeans. So yeah, I'm kind of stuck with that, and I think the identity crisis is something which is most important in how I view my Israeliness.
But so you feel, is the premises for being in a diaspora, is it an identity?
Yeah, but so I don't know. Am I in diaspora?
That's the question.
That is the question. If I'm an Israeli and I don't live in, my problem is, I guess, I don't consider myself a man of the world. You know.
You definitely are.
Thank you, but I don't. That's not like people ask you where you. A lot of people in Berlin, you ask them where are you from? It's like from everywhere. Like, no man, where were you born and raised? And I was born and raised in Israel, even though I had this thing, small time in the States. So I don't feel like a man of the world in that manner. And I am very kind of close to the family and very homey. So all I can say is I don't feel I'm in diaspora. I feel like I'm just not at home at the moment, you know? And I don't really want to go back, but still, something like that.
So you voluntarily choose being not at home, but not the diaspora either, although you're a Jew from Israel?
Yeah. Can a Jew from Israel be because it's like it seems to me that, okay, Jews from New York or from Germany or from Paris could be in the diaspora, but an Israeli Jew could not. You know what I mean? Because I'm Israeli. It's my own problem. I don't want to go. You know, it's not like I'm just. I don't even feel like an immigrant, which I am in a way, but I'm also not because I have German citizenship.
You have a passport which says you're German.
Yeah.
So you can't, as far as I know, choose to be in a diaspora. Either you're born, like, you don't have a, you know, Hitler has sent you away, like, this is the condition. It has to be a force which leads you.
Yeah.
So, the Republic troops in Star Wars, they were in diaspora because, you know, they had to flee.
Yeah.
But because Israel is such a like peaceful and harmonic state,
Of course.
if there is no reason, like there is no reason to flee, so you can just stay there and you don't know.
Listen, some people need to flee Israel. I'm not one of them. You know, I chose to go because it's not comfortable for me.
So you're in a snob holiday.
Yeah. I'd love it if I could be more heroic. But let's face it, if somebody needs to flee for oppression and for injustice and all of that, it's not me. I wasn't the elite.
But which Israeli has to flee?
Well, nobody has to flee, obviously, but people who are obviously Israeli Arabs, Palestinians, well, if they flee, we won. You know, people who are, for instance, you could have a reason to flee for being of the, you know, really lower classes, that you get nothing, for instance, okay? I could have continued to live not a very happy life, of course, but I could continue to live pretty okay in Israel. I wouldn't like it, but I could. I didn't flee.
Do you like Berlin?
Yeah, it's weird.
What's weird?
I like it that it's eaten so much shit so long, and I like it, and I like to imagine it as kind of this haunted house, and I like it that it fits a lot with my fantasies of Europe, and also destroys them completely, because it doesn't have the castles. You know, look at the architecture. It's just buildings, and I don't know. It has a very distinct personality. Yeah, so far.
Which is vanishing?
I guess. Because
you've been told, but you noticed it by yourself?
I've been told mostly, and I noticed some things which I only saw in Berlin, which I've been told are vanishing.
Like?
Like, certain kind of white trash, which I never, I don't know, like, you know, all these guys in the U-Bahn, I don't know, with their dogs, and and they're speaking that certain kind of dialect, which I can now listen and not really understand, but I can say, oh, he's a Berliner, but I've been told mostly and yelled at, and yeah, that Berlin is something vanishing about it, but also I think something interesting is also happening. I don't know how long it will last or whatever, but
can be a home.
Yeah, I think I felt very easily and surprisingly easily, I wouldn't say fit in, because I don't really feel like, hey, these people are like me. I just felt very welcome in a way. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. What do you wish the contemporary German Republic for its future?
What do I wish? I don't know. I'm having such a hard time considering myself as somebody who has anything to say about the German Republic, and I don't know so much about it. And I do feel like I'm not an immigrant, but as a guest, that I should just shut up and be happy, because so far the German Republic today has given me much more than the Israeli state gave me. So I'm kind of like, thank you, and whatever, do what you need, you know? But I have to learn about it more, I guess. People tell me, but I do feel kind of guilty about having anything to say. I shouldn't have a right to say anything about it, I feel. Maybe I should. What do you think?
You said the word guilt in the last sentence of the interview.
Shit, that was the last sentence?
Yes.
Well, guilt. Don't get me started.
תודה רבה.
תודה מתוק.